fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery with your hosts, Eric Shapiro, David North Martino, John Copenhaver, and Al Warren. On 106.5 FM Los Angeles,
102.3 FM Riverside,
and 105.0 AM Palm Springs.
Welcome back into the House of Mystery. I'm Al Warren, Mr. Dave Birthday Martino.
I'm here.
You're here.
I
surprised.
survived the weekend.
Yeah, I'm surprised that you made it in on a Monday after your birthday.
I know.
Crazy,
Right?
not so much the drinking, though, that too, but I was thinking of all that, cake.
Cake, yeah,
Icing,
exactly.
sugar.
I had to roll myself into the studio.
Yeah, wow. It's crazy.
Sugar coma.
Yeah, they had to open both doors to get you in.
Exactly. Get a wheel
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're doing all that, so I guess you didn't watch the Grammys.
I did not.
No.
I didn't even know they were on, Al.
Yeah, is it crazy? Each year it goes by, all these award shows.
Yeah.
It just seem to get less and less notice. And I don't know what the deal is. Well, I actually forgot too, and I was doing my Perry Mason, and of course then I saw something came up on a post, so I flipped through and 5-10 minutes, and it kept breaking for commercials, and I was already bored, so I went back to Perry Mason. Plus it ends up, as I'm getting older, you know less people that win.
Yeah, exactly. Like, who's this?
Yeah. There was a few, actually, because it was the same old Beyonce and
yep.
And then that guy that's from England that dresses funny, and actually a couple from England that dresses funny. But yeah, so it was all, anyway, I didn't pay attention, so, anyway.
If it's not 30 years old, I won't know it.
Yeah, none of your bands that you grew up with, that's for sure.
I know, right?
Elvis, the Beatles.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway. Well, so now we're going to get back into it. Now today we've got an author, and her new book is called 9 Liars. And so let's talk about that. So joining us is Maureen Johnson. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Wow. So Maureen, 9 Liars. Wow.
That's right.
And so how do you classify this? And the reason I ask this is because I'm an old guy, and so it's a detective story, but it's also considered fantasy, supernatural, mystery, and young adult romance and detective. So I'm like, holy cow!
I have no idea why it's classified fantasy supernatural, because it's neither of those things. I think that's just if that's on Amazon, that's some weird.
Yeah.
I have that it is not those. So.
Yeah, that's what I usually find that. So young adult, what does that category mean to you when you write?
All it means is basically the age of the protagonist. There's really no difference in terms of the level of the writing. I have many, many, many adult readers well through their 70s and 80s. So it doesn't have any restrictions in terms of who reads it. It's just that the protagonists tend to be under the age of 18.
Right. So it's just kind of like who you've got going. How do you write into that category? Like, how do you put yourself in the place of your main character or characters that are young adults doing this? Not saying you're old, but
right.
How do you get in? Because what I'm saying is because each generation has their own thing.
Sure.
So how do you get into the mindset of someone that's young when you're writing a book like that?
Well, I feel like people think it's a little more difficult than it is, because as authors, you get into the mindsets of all kinds of people. Like, how do you get in the mindset of a murderer or an astronaut or a goblin? Like, it's just a human being. I find, though, the key to YA is that I think there are two things. One is that it tends to be a genre of firsts. because when you're 15, 16, 17, 18, you're doing a lot of things for the first time. So there's a degree, it's not like, here I am, 15 years old with another ex-wife. You know, there's not a lot of baggage you're carrying around generally in terms of huge life experience. That can vary. And secondly, it doesn't suffer fools gladly. Teenagers are enthusiastic readers. They are also a bit merciless, and they can spot if you're trying to fake them out. Adults actually have a much higher tolerance for this, I think, than teenagers. They also tend to read widely across genres. So if you write and I have written in these other genres in the past, it's just that this book is a straight up mystery story. They'll hop from one genre to another without being as tightly boxed in. So
right.
I think just kind of keeping it open mind that that the characters haven't experienced, that may be going through something for the first time.
Right. That makes sense. So now do you put a certain amount of comedy in this too, don't you?
Well, I think that's just me. I mean, I write how I write. So people say this. If people tend to find what I write to be funny, great. You know, that's just what I sound like.
Well, when you do that, do you have to be careful of the placement or the type of humor, you know, in today's circumstance?
In today's circumstance, meaning,
well, yeah. Do you have to, like, do you second guess? Do you think twice when you've written stuff and you've kind of got some humor, or let's say some laughing and stuff like that? Like, it's because you're dealing still with a murder in a book, right? So that's...
Well, I think that all jokes, no matter where you use them, have to be well timed or they're not jokes. So I think that's always part of the calculation. And also classic murder mysteries, I think frequently have a lot of humor in them because these are classic straight up. This is actually a country house murder mystery. And that part of the genre, I think, gives it a lot of room for comedy, because I think we all know this is not a police procedural. This is not, you know, a gritty realistic. This is a more classic mystery, which I think has loads of room for comedy, because we all know that this is a puzzle and a game.
Well, you talked about timing. Do you think you need a sense of comedic timing, like a stand-up comedian needs that to make an audience laugh? Do you need some sort of timing or flow to make a reader laugh?
Sure. I mean, it's always necessary. It just doesn't work without it. You just have to, you have to feel out the beats, and you have to feel out it's a very rhythmic thing. So yeah, I think a lot of comedy is rhythm.
Now, this is set in the UK? Is that right?
It is, yes.
So is your setting and your placement like of London and the UK? Is that kind of a character in itself?
Yeah, it takes place in 2 locations in the UK. It begins in London and it moves out to the countryside, to outside of the city of Cheltenham. So in the kind of rolling fields of Gloucester. And it's, London, yeah, absolutely. I've written a lot about London. I helpfully have an English husband, so our time is split. We spend a lot of time in the UK, and London has its own special. It's a very old city. It's very twisty. It's built on top of itself for 2,000, 3,000 years. It's full of tunnels. It's full of secrets. Every time you trip over something and they have to dig a hole, it's a plague pit. Someone's always been murdered somewhere, knighted somewhere. There's lots of magical rocks. So everything has a lot of significance, and there's always 12 stories down whenever you stop anywhere. So the fact that it's just so layered in stories and history that a lot of times, you know, modern American culture is pretty shallow. Like, we don't have a lot of stuff. We can't be like, of our current American culture, you can't dig that deep. But you can always pull up something that's like, here's when the Romans were here, and then here's when this king, he found a horse and a magical, my in-laws live near somewhere, they live near kind of this magical rock near where a king was shot in the eye with an arrow, and everything is a little bit of a magical rock. So many magical rocks. So that's always useful.
Yeah. I know what you say. It's got a huge amount of history there. And, it brings a lot of mystery in itself. Yeah. Your main characters. So how do you develop your characters? And how do you experience them? Are you seeing them, hearing them, or feeling them, or what's your process?
Well, the main character in this is a detective named Stevie Bell, and she appears first in a book called Truly Devious. I was a detective, not only just a mystery kid, but really a detective mystery kid. Or any other mystery where you could go to the end and find the solution. So any was like 1 Minute Mysteries or Encyclopedia Brown or, I loved a detective and I wanted to build a detective. So I built this original, it's actually a trilogy for her, with a kind of bespoke school to give her everything she needed, because I needed to figure out how a 16-year-old could be a detective. So I started with that concept and sort of brick and mortar built around her so that there was a structure custom built for her to be a detective. I think I'm very architectural in that sense. I'm very, what do I need? And therefore, who can grow in this environment? That's sort of how I think about it.
So do you have I asked this, it might sound weird, but do you have a relationship with Stevie?
She's mine. I'm not one of those, I don't tend to think that characters are talking to me.
Well, that's
I'm very much I'm in charge here. I'm doing this on purpose. Of course you can hear them in the sense that once you've developed them, you can feel and you hear things, but I am always well aware that they are figments of my very well realized figments of imagination.
Right. You're not driving down the street talking to yourself. Or maybe
No. I am, but that's a different story.
Well, I'm wondering, how you create your dialogue then. If you're not hearing the dialogue and then transcribing it, what's your process?
I kind of am, but it's always, what does the scene need to be accomplished? And every line of dialogue is obviously a little line of gold. You get so many things that you wring out of dialogue. You get action, you get character, but also in mysteries, you get this third bonus round of potential clue or misdirection. And so you really have to think of what you're trying to accomplish in every scene, with that added mystery round of, am I dropping something in this one? Is this, that's the fun of writing mysteries, is you get this extra bonus round of leaving information, trails of information, false trails, real trails, hidden trails. That's my favorite part.
So I guess you outline things pretty thoroughly. You're that type of writer, or do you just kind of go with it?
Oh, with mysteries, I am an outliner. I start with not the how or the who, but the why. Why the crime happened, and then I work the who and the how out of that. Then I work out the crime or crimes in detail, and how it was done, who did it, and what potential problems came out of it, and information and what things would have come off of it. And then I spiral out from there to work out all of the rest of the information of the story. But I start with the puzzle. These are Nine Liars is a fair play mystery. All of the Truly Devious books, or the Stevie Bell mysteries, are fair play. So the information is always in the book that you need to solve it. So I really build out from the crime, the incident, figure out what other big story events, character events need to happen, and then really work out from there and sort of create the book, outline it in sort of a little miniature couple pages, then build it out and out and out from there.
Well, how do you keep track of everything? Do you have a set of tools? Do you use note cards? Do you just use a notebook? How does that work for you?
I tend to find I like to buy as many organizational tools as possible, so that I have so many organizational tools that I have, on occasion, looked up or tried to buy organizational tools to help me deal with my organizational tools. And then I really go down a rabbit hole where I'm really stressed out by all the organizational tools that I have acquired, all the bits of software, all the things I try out, all the whiteboards, and then in the end, it's like many, many Post-its, a bunch of screaming, and then putting the Post-its into an electronic Post-it board.
Sounds like a job.
Yeah, I like to make it as complicated as possible.
Yeah.
I like to really clutter it up in an attempt to declutter it. It's really working for me.
Well, yeah, that's the main thing. How do you know when the book's done? Like, is there a certain point where you stop editing, stop adding, stop, writing, and you just know it's done? Or is it one of those things that never really ends?
It's when they threaten me.
Yeah.
It's absolutely when they threaten me. It's like, no, it's really due. We're coming. Maureen, we're here. We're at the door. We are opening your door. We're standing next to you now. Just stop pretending you can't see us. Give us the book. It's when they take it. I will work up to the last second. I will be half dead and my finger will be just reaching for the keyboard to type one more letter.
So
I like a frenzy.
when they rip it from your
Yeah.
cold, dead hands.
Right.
What happens then? Do you ever go back and kind of look at it, a book that's been published, and kind of want to change it or keep adding to it then?
Oh, that's painful, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's no fun. There's no point in that, but because so Truly Devious is a series of 3 books. Truly Devious, The Vanishing Stare on the Hand of the Wall. That's one mystery. There's another standalone mystery called The Box in the Woods, and this is a standalone mystery called 9 Liars. They all may contain pieces of information I need to make sure I have right. So I will constantly re-reference just to make sure that I have established correctly where everything is, who has what, etc. So I tend to go back to look for information, but not because that's that way madness lies. That's just unhappiness. That's just driving yourself up the wall.
Yeah, but a lot of writers are unhappy.
Oh yeah, I'm a very happy person. This is why I just wander along and just that's the secret to my happiness is don't worry about it. You did it. Just keep going.
Yeah, I think it's true
Walk on.
because you'll never really solve that issue because you're constantly changing and growing, and then each time you look at it, you're going to want to update it in a sense or fix it, so to speak, right? So
occasionally a reader will say, "I found a typo here to help you." They will say, "I found a typo," and they'll send it to you.
yeah,
It's like, just stick a knife in my face. Why don't you?
Yeah.
This is so sad every time. Just so upsetting.
yeah. Well, that's all right. I always just block them.
I always thank them and then sit quietly and stare at the wall for a minute.
No, and if they keep at her, then I hunt them down.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, they have to learn somehow.
Well, so does that affect you, like the emotion of your surroundings? So, like, if you're having a bad day, can you still sit down and do your writing on point, or do you have to be in the right mood?
It has nothing to do with mood. I mean, I have to be basically well. Like, I just had COVID, so not a lot of writing got done. But aside from that, no. You don't have to be in a mood. You make the mood. I think it's a behavior. It's also your job, but it's a behavior. So I think most writers cultivate the ability to, or a lot of do. Not everybody. Can't speak for anybody, but you can create that behavior anywhere. It's like I can eat no matter the situation. So I can write pretty much no matter the situation. But
what do you hope someone gets out of the book when they read it? Is it just pure entertainment, or do you actually sort of have a subtext or a meaning or something you want people to maybe pull out of the book?
I hope it's a classic, straight up country house murder mystery. I hope that they enjoy the puzzle. I hope that they enjoy spending time at this place. I really kind of hope to build a place for people to spend some time and some people to spend their time with. And especially because I guess there is one thing about writing for when you have teen readers is that they can relate very heavily to your characters, and giving them something to hold on to that they find, that they feel that they've seen themselves in a book can be very meaningful. For example, Stevie suffers from anxiety. Loads of people suffer from anxiety. It's not a defining characteristic for her. It's just something she has. It's just like, and also I have green eyes. And that she kind of gets on with it, even though it's a pain. Just this idea that things are okay. Like, it's okay to have some problem. It's okay to be worried about your future. It's okay to feel like you're not getting it right. I'm a big believer in things are generally a mess, and that's entirely appropriate. Writing is a mess. Life is often very messy, and that's fine. That's actually exactly how it's supposed to go.
Do you ever use people that you know or have met or have seen as kind of inspirations in characters, or maybe certain aspects of them that you use in characters?
Loosely. There is a character that's throughout the series, Nate, who is a writer. He wrote a book when he was a kid that actually got published, and ever since then they've been wanting him to write a second book, and he will do absolutely anything but write his book. And having said that I can write under any circumstances, was obviously lying. And writers often avoid writing as much as humanly possible and then classify whatever it is they're doing as writing. Like, I am painting. This is my form of writing. I am cleaning this floor. It is a form of writing. So he is me and every writer I know just desperately trying to avoid the task at hand by not writing or writing the thing he's not supposed to be writing.
Wow. Do you ever kill people you know?
Have I ever killed anybody I know? Sort of. You mean in a book, right? I mean,
yeah, well, I mean,
is this a trap?
You have something else to tell.
Is this a trap?
Yeah,
We won't tell anyone.
God, this is,
we won't let anybody.
This was
Nobody will know.
such an easy trap I fell into.
Yeah.
Those people generally have all been created. I don't think I've actually.
That doesn't sound real believable, but that's okay.
Look, I want a lawyer.
Yeah. And Dave's a lawyer.
Yeah.
All right. Look, what are you going to tell me then? Don't say anything else.
No, speak your mind.
Yeah.
You have nothing
Say
to
it
hide.
all.
He didn't say he was a good lawyer.
I know. 'Cause
Yeah.
So how do you get yourself to write if you're in that mood where you're cleaning floors? Is
Well-
there a trick?
I don't know if you find this as well. Is it when you're doing something else, sometimes that's when you think, showering, walking, cooking. Sometimes I just have to get up and physically do something and work it through. And then I find that I've left myself little notes all over the house, like on the little whiteboard in the kitchen, or just random scrawled notes. I'll be like, oh yeah, I was thinking about that. Then it's simply the action of sitting down and frequently, just I use a program to turn off the internet. So that tends to be what gets you as well. I'll just look something up. I'll answer an email. If you use a blocker, then you just absolutely can't get online. And, then it just drags you back to what you have to do.
Yeah, the internet's a dangerous place.
It's a wonderful, wonderful, messy, awful, great place.
It's like a bar fight every day.
Yeah.
Do you like to, read your reviews? Do you get into that and how people respond to when you write?
No. I mean, I'll glance at them, not on sites, but like actual like trade reviews and things like that. Or if someone sends something to me, I'll give it a quick read, but that's it. It's very quick, but I don't go and like read Goodreads or Amazon reviews. Maybe once or twice when the book's first out, just to see generally what people think. But then after that, that's again, it's, it can't, even if they're, they're great. I'm not even sure how they serve, because people can have absolutely any opinion they want about it. And there's nothing. Also, sometimes you see on Amazon, there'll be things like, you'll get a bad review and you will look at it and it'll be like, book came damaged. You're like, okay, there's nothing I can do about this. So why did I come here? This is your own fault. This is your own fault for showing up. So honestly, no, I just don't, it doesn't really change or inform what I do generally.
Yeah, I just look at the overall. If I'm on, I see if it's like 500 reviews and you're 4.5 stars, that's great, good enough.
I kind of imagine I'm cooking at a diner or something. Every once in a while, I lean in and go, people liking them? People liking the burgers? Great. Lean back in, just.
Yeah, because they stop coming if they don't.
Yeah.
So, well, that's interesting. So, who are your inspirations, or do you have any writers that you're inspired by, or you like reading?
I mean, that's a toughie. I mean, we all read loads and loads and loads. I frequently talk about my favorite young adult mystery ever was The Weston Game, which came out in 1978 and is still amazingly readable. And I reread it at least once a year, and I was obsessed with it as a child. And I think it won the Newbery in 78. And it is an incredible example of a really good murder puzzle mystery for kids. And it's even for a younger audience. That's a middle grade book. And it's so good. And it really got to me as a kid. It was like, all I could think about was this puzzle in this book. I don't know if you've ever read it. It's an amazingly good book.
I've never read a book before. I'm considering it. I don't know. I'm tired of comic books, so I'm thinking of moving up. But
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's so many good comic books, so it's probably just keep going with that.
Yeah.
And that's also reading, so that's fine.
Yeah, I love pictures too. I mean, okay. So what's next? Like, what are you going to do? You going to keep doing this? Young adults and all that. Is that sort of your passion?
It's a lot of what I do. I'm certainly going to be continuing. I have more Stevie Bell mysteries coming. I have an entirely new standalone young adult mystery coming next year called Death at Morning House. I've written a lot of YA books, but I was always a classic mystery person. And it took me a long time to get around to writing straight up classic mysteries. I don't know why. I think it was because I loved them so much and they were so dear to my heart that I just didn't think I could do it for some reason. But it turns out that's really where I wanted to be. So I have at least 3 more coming up right now and hopefully even more after that. So
where did you get interested in writing? Were you that person that was writing since 5 years old type thing? Or
I was that person. I don't really have any other skills. And it's just, I feel like that's the key to success. If in something like writing, that's a pretty sketchy thing to want to get into, is just develop that one skill and really lean into it so that you have no other choices. That's worked for me. That's not great advice, but that worked for me. I'm like, I got to make this work because I don't know how to land planes or anything. So I got this thing. So I'm going to do it.
Well, there's plenty of people out there that don't know how to do their job. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair enough. So, but I'm a real all eggs in one basket kind of a person. I'm going to go down with the ship. But yeah, I always wanted to be a writer. And of course, everybody was like, no, really. And I said, no, this is really what I want to do.
Was there a certain thing that made you actually decide to send it to a publisher or get it out there?
I just constantly worked to that course. I studied rhetoric and writing in undergrad. I did 2 MFAs, one in writing and one in theatrical dramaturgy, sort of at the same time. But as I was working on my MFA, it turns out someone I knew was very quietly showing my in-class work to an agent. And so I wasn't even ready to submit yet. And I kind of got picked up before even I was ready, like before I was even thought I would. So I got very lucky in that respect.
Wow, that's great.
It was great. It was very like, oh, you've been doing what now? And they're like, no, they love it. So,
yeah.
Oh God. But yeah. So I was very lucky. So that really actually I was still in grad school.
What would you say to someone that's a brand new writer out there?
Embrace the idea of messing up and failing, and that all writing when you first write is bad. So if you were like, I write and it's really bad, or I'm writing the story and it's terrible and I don't know how to do it, that means you're right on track. That you're feeling like everybody feels, or like most people feel, is like, I don't know, what is this? What am I doing? I'm doing it wrong. Things have to be written poorly before they're written well, and that it does take time to learn and to do. I think people sometimes think like writing is different, that you just sit down and you can do it. And that's just magic. And I always think, like, would you just say to someone, did you just sit down and play the piano with nobody teaching you how to do it? I'm sure people have done that, but generally speaking, someone's got to teach you what the keys are and you got to practice. And it is a thing that takes practice and trial and error. And it continues to need trial and error forever.
Yeah, that never really changes, does it?
No.
Wow. So now, are you interacting? Do you have social media set up? Do you have a website? How do people find you?
Oh, they find me. I've always been pretty active on social media. I'm on Twitter at Maureen Johnson and Instagram at Maureen Johnson Books, and then online at maureenjohnson.com. So pretty easy.
Wow. You're just all over the place. Well, of course, now we're going to have all of that up on the website. People can find you, find the book, find everything. And please send her a message. She likes it. Maureen likes that.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'll talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we really appreciate you coming in, talking about your new book. Of course, the book is called 9 Liars, and our guest has been Maureen Johnson. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Maureen.
You've been listening to the House of Mystery radio show. To find out more about our guests, hosts, or shows, go to www.houseofmystery.com.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
Well, good night.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
I'll be back.